around 250 hubs and stations, delivering hundreds of thousands of parcels every day. So you just imagine how that growth has been significant. They're also planning to deploy full automation in one of our facilities by end of 2021. We're actually doing the investment work and planning for this now. And we're starting to deploy these machines. So yeah, I'm really quite excited for that. This brings me to the fourth tip of mine, which is really focus on what adds value. So oftentimes when people talk about their careers, their jobs, they think about the money, for example. They think about like the role or the title, you know. I just want to get a sense from you guys. Of these functions, which one do you think adds the most value? Right? I'm just really curious to get a sense of which ones do you think really adds value? Okay, equal amount of Reacts. I would say this is a bit of a trick question, really, because all of them can add value, right? What's important, I would say, is really understanding what the company or the industry is doing to the market in a unique way. And really, if that is the only company really that can provide that unique value, right? So I'll give you an example. If, for example, we didn't work hard on building up the Ninja Van from the ground up to what it is right now, I'm fairly certain that the e-commerce logistics industry would be very different, right? The behavior, the market, how we built up this industry would be very different, and you guys might not be able to get your parcels as fast or as secure or as safe. Really. So I push you, if you think about that in companies that you will join, right? They really add in value. If I take away this company from this market, will we be better off? Or I would also push you guys to think about that in your careers, right? What kinds of jobs out there really add that value, right? Will you really add that value if you launch your 16th variant of your conditioner with like amino acids or whatever, not to diss FMCGs, by the way, but will you really add that value? Or really, you introduce a new product that people really like and people really appreciate, and you to figure out the way to launch this new initiative, is that gonna add more value? So that's what I'm gonna push you guys to always think about, right, in your careers. Because really, if you think about the most successful people out there, the most successful companies out there, it's these companies that provide value, really. And I can certainly tell you, if you really provide that value, the market will reward you back. You get to rake in the big bucks, you get to rake in the nice titles, nice roles, but you have to start from the value that you provide, really. So I'm going to run through quickly because I'm sort of running out of time now, I think. But really, COVID presented many opportunities. And this is, I think, one example also of why I think companies like Ninja Van, the e-commerce industry in general, really adds that value. Because, as you know, because of COVID, opportunities really grew in the market. More people spent their hours online. Most of these people are new digital customers, and most of them intend to stay using these digital services. So really quite exciting. But also it presented many challenges. Work was suspended really overnight, and quarantines and regulations made it hard to traverse and build the network. Safe and health protocols had to change immediately. One thing that was actually, I'll show you, one thing that was we were struggling with in the first week of the pandemic was, how to conduct our business safely. We are a delivery business, and people back then, you just imagine the first week of pandemic, they are scared of delivery, really, because we have this process where we have to go to the customers and tell them, here's your package, we give it to the customer, and then we have them sign. Because they have to sign, because they have to prove that they received the parcels. Otherwise, yeah, it can be stolen by anyone. So that was the one of the first problems we had. And immediately we recognized the need to change this through technology. So that very first week, we worked on product changes for contactless delivery, right? So before, within our app that the drivers use, signature was required. We deployed changes to our product so that it won't be required anymore. And so you guys notice, delivery riders now, instead of asking for signatures, they just require that photo. And that requires a lot of work, especially for deploying it across thousands and thousands of drivers. But really important nonetheless. So I believe that we made these product changes in record time. Within 2 weeks, I think we made these changes. And really quite complicated. We built all these flows, asked our engineers and feedback and things like that. Quite interesting, actually, this article that we saw, and this is becoming a trend now where people have fun with the pictures that are taken of them. So I think really it's quite interesting how, this small challenge that we had before turned into this wide initiative and sort of is embraced by by everyone now. Just sharing here a few things about the analytics that we use in Ninjavan. I think just wanted to share with you guys how this dashboard right here, I built this with actually a fresh grad from IE. So it helps us to understand our network a lot better. You can see all those dots and where we have problem areas. I built this up with, just a fresh grad out of IE. So imagine just how, value adding that fresh grad really is. Also, this algorithm we built to understand where we map our hubs. We worked with a few teams on building this up, and now it gives us some better understanding of how we can make better decisions. So I'm gonna bring this next tip really. So it's up to you guys to really make the future happen. So all these things that I talked about, all these developments that we built up, we pushed for this and really wanted to make this happen. And there's this quote saying, the future is already here. It's not just very evenly distributed, right? So I'm going to end with that. Really, I'm going to remind you guys that it's up to you guys to really push for the future and make it happen. And it's all about really connecting all these dots and making sure that you are geared and prepared to face the future. So with that, really, thank you very much. I apologize, I took a bit longer, but I think I'm ready to answer some questions now.
Thank you very much for the insightful talk, Mr. Perez. It was such an honor to be here with you today to learn more about the intricacies of course, e-commerce, as well as the basic values of success. I believe our participants also feel the same kind of gratitude. Though, speaking of our participants, the floor is now open for your questions. Kindly submit your answers in the Google form pinned in the comment section below, as well as on the original post.
So we already have one question, and our first question comes from Chris, who's asking, "Hello, Mr. Perez. I am a senior high school student, and I'm currently taking up IE for college. Is this something that you can recommend, and why?"
Yeah, certainly. I was in IE also, and I think it's a very good platform for you to start your career. IE exposes you to a lot of things. There's engineering, accounting, finance, and that really gives you a good starting point to whatever career you might choose. And I would say not a lot of careers give you like all this wide encompassing view. So yeah, I would recommend IE. Although I would recommend also a lot of other courses really. I would say it really depends on what you want to do in life. But IE, I would recommend is a good starting point.
Thank you for your answer to the first question, Mr. Perez. Now we have another one. An anonymous participant would like to ask, what was the hardest thing that you went through on the first day of working, and how did you get through it?
All right. So specifically on the first day, I don't think there was any particular hard thing I did. I would focus on, I guess, the first year. And it really was just getting up to speed and learning all these things that I need to learn. So when you're out there in the real world, it's not like school where the things you need to learn are handed to you and there's a syllabus that you can follow and there's a book that you can read. Really, you have to do it yourself. Really, I mean, you go out there, sit in your desk. You can't expect your manager to guide you through. I mean, maybe if you're lucky with a particular manager, it's really spoon feeds the answers to his or her employees. But more often than not, it's really not going to be handed to you. And you have to figure out how to learn all that. Whether it's exposure to other people, talking to other people, or really reading SOPs or manuals out there, or really just being integrated into the work culture. All these things are really important for you to learn how it is to work. I would say that's the toughest thing about being a fresh grad in the first year of your work.
Thank you once again, Mr. Perez. Now we have another anonymous question. Our participant would like to ask, what can you advise for the new graduates who are still trying to land a job despite the pandemic?
Trying to land a job, certainly quite challenging. I never faced trying to land a job in pandemic, so I understand. I can imagine how challenging that might be. I would say there are many things you can do to start, providing value or just earning a living. Really, as I mentioned earlier, you can sort of expose yourself to say all these online platforms, or try selling, all these things. Try understanding how really the online e-commerce world works, and you can start selling all these different things. I can imagine, you can buy products here and there, and then navigate building a website, navigate setting up a social media site, and start selling. And I would say the exposure you get out of just understanding how this works and being a seller online can make you attractive to online platforms or like online businesses. Because really, all these things, they're really hard skills that you can translate as you go out there. And this is really the new way of operating. So it's very important that you guys can expose yourselves to that. If you're not really interested in this whole online thing, I would say just really always think about whenever you're applying or talking to, like, let's say this hiring manager, always think about how you as an applicant, how you as a fresh grad will really add value to that company, right? Oftentimes, I feel mindset, and I'm not saying this for everyone, for all the graduates out there, but oftentimes the mindset is how we might, how like, say, if you're a graduate of a certain college, that you deserve this role, that you have to get this role, you have to get the big bucks because you're a graduate of this college. I encourage you all to flip that and really think about what is the value that you're going to add to the company. And I would say that suggest all sorts of things that you can do for them, right? So, for example, like, this thing and you can help them doing this, or like have a certain skill that you can offer. I can imagine that the application process might be will be a lot better, really, and just because of that small change in mindset.
Thank you once again for answering our questions, Mr. Perez. The note on starting with online businesses, it almost makes you feel like you are making lemonade out of lemons, but these lemons are quite deadly. Yeah, pandemics are no joke, of course. Now, due to time constraints, I believe this will be our last question from our participant, Charlie. Charlie would like to ask, what would you say is the greatest strength or advantage that you have as an industrial engineer?
Greatest strength, advantage. I would say just having a bit of a head start in terms of being a more well-rounded manager, right? For you to be a good manager and sort of senior leader in organizations, you have to understand how different functions work. It's not enough for you to be a good CEO or COO. It's not enough that you learn just one dimension, right? You have to learn how all these different departments work together: finance, marketing, sales, operations, HR. Really, you have to understand how they work together, right? And because of the experience or the exposure you guys have in various disciplines, that's already a good head start. You start to understand marketing a bit better with some of the skills that you got here and there. You start to understand sales a bit better with some of the exposure that you have, operations, of course, finance, and all these other things, right? I'm not saying that you go out there, you immediately understand all these functions, because I just mentioned earlier, there's just so many that you can learn. But what I would emphasize is really, you guys have a head start, and you have small pieces here and there that you can use and you can jump off of and really learn from. So, for example, the small thing that you know about marketing, you can use that to learn many other things as you go into your next role. And I would say that's really just a great advantage that you should leverage on for as you join your companies or embark on your careers.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions. And of course, thank you so much for your knowledge and time, Mr. Perez. We highly appreciate it.
We truly do. And with that, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation for you, flashed here on our screen. Now, while we're waiting for that, we would like to once again thank all of our participants. You guys had really great questions, and we're glad that you enjoyed Mr. Perez's speech. But right, let's move on to the certificate.
Given this day, 18th of May, in the year of the Lord 2021, at De La Salle University, Taft Avenue, Manila, the certificate of appreciation is awarded to Mr. Vin Perez for sharing knowledge as a distinguished speaker in the success of aaaIECON 2021, building the industries of tomorrow. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Vin Perez.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, really, and good luck to everyone. And if anything, any questions, do reach out. Feel free. I'm available on LinkedIn or wherever. I'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Vin Perez. And we will now be having a quick 5-minute break, but do not leave yet, because we will be having our very first raffle question for today. So get ready to comment down your answers.
And this first raffle is sponsored by Franchise Manila. Now, for the first question of the day, hope you guys are ready, hope you guys are excited. What is the term for the process of designing or arranging workplaces, products, and systems so that they fit the people who use them? Now, quickly comment down below your answer with the hashtag aaaIECON2nddayaaa Franchise Manila.
That's a really interesting question, though, and I wonder what the answer is. And right now, I'm seeing lots of comments from you guys, so keep them coming to get the chance to win a special prize from Franchise Manila, your #1 resource on franchising and small businesses in the Philippines.
All right, so our participants have a lot of questions coming, a few in the comments. Now, to give you guys the answer to the question, it is actually ergonomics. So, good job to everyone who got the question, and please be reminded, yes, that the raffle winners will be announced at the end of the event.
Yes. And of course, if you want to up your career game, make sure to check out the services that Kenobi offers. A resume coffee break that can greatly increase your chances of your resume. Phone the coach for if you want to have some career questions and want an honest opinion from a professional on the same industry. And of course, an interview lunch for if you want to have an upcoming job interview for your dream job and you want to increase your chances of landing it. Drop by their site app.kenobi.asia and be sure to check them out.
I would like to remind everyone to please fill up the general attendance log sheet flashed on the screen and pinned in the comment section. Now, once again, please fill up the general attendance log sheet if you haven't already, of course. Now, you may also fill up the sponsor promotion form to avail some special goodies from our aaaIECON 2021 sponsors. See you all after our break at, well, 2:15 Philippine Standard Time, which
IE Convention 2021, Building the Industries of Tomorrow, is co-presented by JP Morgan Chase, L'Oreal, Mondelez, Shopee, Unilever, Bake Sushi, Cozy Manila, Decor District, Emerson, First Day Diagnostics, Franchise Manila, Grizzly Dough, Iceberg Insulated, Kenobi, Yummy 2 Tummy. This event is made possible by Boyson, Coca-Cola, Change Agent Academy. This event is brought to you by Global Link MP. Our media partners, ang Pahayagang Plaridel, Archers Network, Chinoy.tv, Diario Milenio, Edge TV, Engineering Wins PH, Green Giant FM, Ingeniero.org, Philippine Daily Inquirer, Villasalyon, Usapang Econ. Special thanks to Anakula Coffee, Arnie Dading Peachy Peachy, E. Bernardo Enterprises, Mice Kitchen Commissary, Papa Case, Sticker Street PH.
Welcome back, everyone. Can I just say that we have such great and talented speakers for today?
I totally agree with you, Josh. I simply can't wait to hear our next speakers talk.
And to introduce our main speaker for today, he's a graduate of Industrial Engineering at the University of the Philippines, and he took his master's in Business Administration at Ateneo Graduate School of Business. He started his career as the Managing Director of IBM Philippines and climbed up his way to become the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Bank of the Philippine Islands, or commonly known as BPI. Let's all give a round of applause and welcome Mr. Ramon Hoxon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to this forum. And, the topic is about building a better Philippines. And I thought that thinking about it, what really is transforming industry right now is not only COVID, but also digital. So I said, probably it's best that I focus my talk on digital, how it disrupts industries, and maybe how the Philippines can better cope with that disruption and come out more competitive. So what I'd like to do is to share with you our experiences in BPI but also from a personal point of view, coming from somebody who has the same background as you guys, industrial engineering, sharing with you how my training and my education for being an industrial engineer prepared me for this job, and how I continue to use it in the course of doing our digital transformation in DPI. So first of all, maybe let me share with you a little bit about BPI. BPI at a glance. We're the oldest bank in the Philippines. We have around 3.6 million total clients, and we have around 2.7 million folks who are using our app at any one time, with around 4.5 million clients who are enrolled in our digital channels. We have around 1,000 branches. And then we have around 20,000 employees. Now, one thing that we're focused on going towards the next 5 years is really contributing to the country by pushing initiatives on financial wellness. And how we're going to do it primarily is through digitalization, expanding our coverage, maximizing the use of digital channels to reach and deepen client relationships. And of course, we subscribe to a sustainable future with the ESG, international standards on sustainability for corporations. So briefly, that's BPI. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself, my own journey, right? So, and current job that I do. I took up my industrial engineering in UP, but I spent most of my years in LaSalle. My first 8 years, primary from prep to grade 7, was in LaSalle. So maybe you can say that I was trained to be practical because I went to LaSalle. And then I went in high school. I spent 4 years in Philippine science, so I became theoretical. Then I went to UP, where I became radical. Then I went to Ateneo, where I became more esoteric in terms of my thinking. So that combination, I think, if I may say, when I look at my career, coupled with my industrial engineering training, prepares me well for what I'm doing right now, currently at the crux of the digital initiatives of the bank. I joined the working force in 1982 after graduating from UP. I was hired by IBM here in the Philippines in 1982 to be a systems analyst. So my first 3 years was about systems analysis and design. And then in the course of my career, I went to several jobs. And in fact, at one time, I was doing systems integration, application design, systems design, and heading that for IBM in Southeast Asia. Then going on, mostly doing systems, applications, and software, doing global jobs, regional jobs, and so forth, until I retired in 2015. And then I went on to join BPI, primarily to help BPI transform digitally. Currently, what I'm doing in BPI as the operating officer, it's really about pushing the digitalization efforts of the bank, and I'll tell you more about it. But in the course of doing my job, there are 5 IE principles that I took with me through my career. First is, when I look at even my earliest job, doing systems analysis and design, it was ingrained in me that I should look at things from a holistic standpoint. There always has to be a systems approach. And, although the book is old, I would recommend that you guys, read it. It's by Peter Senji, The Art and Practice of Learning Organizations. And I think being IE practitioners, it really pushes the envelope in terms of what IE can do for an organization and how an organization can keep on learning. In particular, it pushes system thinking, design thinking. And you guys may probably have heard of Agile, or organizations are adopting Agile now. And if you read his book, you can identify with most of the concepts that he posits in the book. It's really about systems thinking, mental models. But when you're doing something, think about how it interconnects with other systems and the implications. The second thing is, as an IE student, unlike maybe the other engineering degrees, we were trained to make quick decisions, and as such, it may not be precise decisions, but it's a heuristic decision. It's a decision that may be your best guess at that point in time, but it pretty much helped me in my career, because in most of the jobs that I've had, there was a need to be quick in decision making, to thinking on your feet and making quick decisions. The third thing is process. So you do systems analysis and design. Even with technology, process is key. You need to take a look at how a process melds technologies and people and comes up with a coherent system. And then once you do that, cybernetics, you need to ingrain in that system a feedback mechanism so you can check. In fact, one of my management precepts, which I tell my team, is that I will inspect what I expect. So if I design a system like that, I will design a cadence or a measurement system where I look at the metrics periodically to see whether we course correct or whether we adjust or we continue on. And last but not the least, all of this, you need to design with people in mind. Systems need to be designed with people in mind, ergonomics. So these are the 5 things that I continue to practice as an industrial engineering graduate. And I believe that it will continue to be relevant as you move on in the 4th or 5th industrial age. As you move on and in your own enterprises, you lead or you participate in any digital transformation. And here's the thing, why this 5 is very important. Digital is disrupting every industry. So to build a better Philippines, I think you take a look at most countries now. Most countries have a digital strategy. In the Philippines, we don't have a digital strategy yet. Enterprises are adopting digital strategies on their own, but it costs more in the Philippines because you have to take stock, because some parts of digital are not provided for in the environment, so you have to build it on your own. As an example, the absence of national IDs. It's very difficult for us to identify clients because unlike Singapore, Hong Kong, and so forth, they have national IDs. So it's easy for them to identify clients and to readily look at demographics. Demographic data is readily available and so on. In the Philippines, unless we're able to do certain things and build a digital strategy, the industries won't be as competitive. Now, I'll bring up something that I sort of follow and I subscribe to. It's very important, and this is more to reinforce why our training as industrial engineers is even more relevant now, more than ever. So let me first begin with at the bottom left. Around 1925, there's a Russian economist by the name of Nikolai Kondratiev, and right now it's known as the Kondratiev wave. Where when he looked at economies, he found out that economies go through a boom and bust cycle every 60 years. And he said, hey, if I trace most of the boom and bust cycles, it's brought about by industrial innovation. So as an example, he looked at the turn of the century in England when they revolutionized the textile industry by aggregating and then introducing machines. So it's really the concept of aggregation and the concept of the factory, mass customization. So that brought about economies of scale, and then that brought about new industries. So Kondratiev is saying that when we look at most economies from 1925 down, there's always a boom and bust cycle. Sometime around 1950s, we have one of the, I think, Nobel laureate economist by the name of Joseph Schumpeter, who said that, hey, that wave is brought about not by industrial innovation, but industrial mutation. meaning to say that as new discoveries or new innovations are discovered, value moves from one sector or one industry to another. And he posited the concept of creative destruction, that economies, as one value is destroyed in one industry, it's built in another. As an example, when you take a look at the turn of the century, trains, freight trains and so forth, railroads, most of the money was in that area, but as soon as they introduced cars, it moved over to Ford, General Motors, and so on. And then, positive to where we are now, there's a lady that you should follow, Carlota Perez. And I put down the source here. You should take a look at her video, which is available in YouTube, Technological Revolutions in the Shape of Tomorrow. And what Carlota Perez did was sometime around 1990s, she looked at the history of bubbles. And then she found out that, hey, the industrial mutation, industrial innovation has now accelerated because of new technologies, and the new technologies are mutating. And with these new business models, new values, new industries are created, pretty much like what you have now. The concept of content industries, concept of Uber, no assets but just data. So Carlota Perez, her view was that with new technologies, new things are possible. And her seminal paper back in, I think in 2002, and with a subsequent paper in 2008 and so on, gave rise to what the World Economic Forum eventually synthesized and called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And it's brought about by, digital infrastructures that come out, which is a product of artificial intelligence, analytics, digital twins, Internet of Things. As you combine these things, for example, you combine analytics with smart devices, now you're able to unlock value because you know where people go, what people use, and so on. So a combination or a permutation of the combinations, Carlota theorized that new industries will be born. And this is her model on the right. Now, her model is that with radical new technologies, what you have would be this combination of these radical new technologies will bring up new techno paradigms, a new way of doing things. So it will reorganize organizations, industries, and so on, which will produce a quantum jump in productivity and quality, and then you will find new engines of growth, and then so on. That innovation goes on. Now, if you take a look at it, I highlighted the things which basically touches on industrial engineering, org principles. This is what we study. In ergonomics, productivity and quality, we look at methods and procedures. New engines of growth, we look at OR, we look at how things develop through time. Most of this plays well into our training. And I think this is the very heart of digital. It's about technologies coalescing, combining, unlocking value, unearthing new supply chains, and by doing so, disrupting new industries, and then driving value from traditional companies to new companies. As an example, around 10 years ago, when you look at the Dow Jones, most of the value in the Dow Jones came from big corporations, Hewlett-Packard, IBM, Ford, General Motors, and so on. Now, when you look at the Dow Jones, most of that growth is driven by what we call the FANG stocks. FANG stocks are Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and of course, there's Apple. And if you take a look at these new companies, they were not visible, or they were only a fraction of their value maybe 10, 15 years ago. But because of technologies, they suddenly go up. And think about the new companies now driving most of the value in cloud, right? You take a look at Zoom, which is what we're using right now. You take a look at companies like Twilio, which drives content management and so on. So I can go on and on about how technology changes industry, and now how you need the industry to apply it to organizations. And I think that's really the sweet spot for industrial engineers. So let me now go through what's happening to us in banking, right? So the implementation of all these technologies essentially gives us competitive threats. In some cases, it reinforces our strengths. But when we take a look at the whole value chain in banking, right, this is what I have to look at every day, right? In the area of everyday commerce and transactions, there will be fintechs that will GCash, PayMaya, others are coming in, right? Where before it was all credit cards, right? You will have retail loans, companies that have no bricks and mortar offering state loans via social media and so on. And then you have business to business transactions. So what we've done is working with McKinsey and Boston Consulting, we've sort of plotted in the bank, what industries would change in the next 3 years, where we are positioned and where we are weak. And then in those areas, that's the focus of our digitalization initiative. Now, here comes COVID, right? When COVID came in, right, suddenly everybody was forced to go digital. What we saw was that, first of all, if you look at the upper left quadrant, right, we suddenly saw a rise in people using our mobile app. And we constantly survey them, and most of them say, in the new normal, they won't go back to the branches. They just use online banking. So that destroys your concept of branch banking. Now you have to develop a virtual banking concept. Now you have to work out what your physical digital harmonization is, right? But this COVID, in fact, what we say is that the best enabler for digital transformation in 2020 was not a person, but a virus. COVID caused all of this. And what did we see during that time? If you go to the lower left-hand corner, we suddenly saw people using our banking applications for different things than what it was intended for. And I would describe this into three things. Suddenly, people became what we call hyper-transactors. Hyper-transactors because they were staying at home, so they did more on online banking. They found ways by which they're able to use our mobile app to donate, to transfer, to load, and so on. Where before, a normal one of our usual, an average client could access this app maybe 4 times a day. We suddenly saw it zoom to around 20 times a day. The second thing that we saw was that this was brought about because of the rise of the hyper-local economy. What do I mean by hyper-local? Since all of the malls were closed, right, businesses went hyper-local. They went neighborhood stores. Your neighbor started providing vegetables, cakes, whatever kind of food or whatever kind of necessity you may have. Supply chains became local. Distributors were disintermediated. And most of all, the payment was done via mobile devices, via transfers, GCash, PayMaya, or via QR code of banking applications. The hyper-local economy also showed the weakness of the credit card system because malls were closed. Now, most of the transactions of credit cards were usually in malls where you have point-of-sale systems. Suddenly, with hyper-local, you don't need them anymore. All you need is a smartphone. Then, if you take a look at the lower left-hand corner, which is a chart borrowed from Boston Consulting Group, we take a look at where people are sourcing their goods. I noticed that one of your speakers was he's a good friend of mine, Charlie Villaseñor, and he probably would have discussed the effect on supply chains. But suddenly we found out that people were buying more of their necessities via social media, less from supermarkets, even though supermarkets are open. And this is the effect of hyperlocal. And for us, suddenly we saw digital zooming, where before the lockdown, 85.2% of our transactions were done on mobile, suddenly it shot up to 95%. And where it is now, around 92, it hovers around 92, 92.3 to 93%. The implications to us are that means that we have to rejigger all our physical channels and or all of our resources to digital, mobile. And that means that you have to reorganize. That means that you have to re-engineer your processes and plot out your new client journeys. And what I have here is we have a team that works for me. That's called the Business Transformation and Analytics team. Because as you do this transformation, you have to be guided by data. You have to be data driven because the data changes every day. The other thing is as you enable a digital function, what you find out is a client finds another use for it more than what you intended it for. So you need to study client behavior. And this brings about the concept of hyper-personalization. So I talked about hyper-transactors, I talked about hyper-local markets. And now, from a usage standpoint, most of our clients need to have their experiences hyper-personalized because they do a combination of stuff. You know, somebody uses more of wallets, somebody uses more of branches, somebody uses more of wallets, but more of GCash, more than PayMaya, but more of, and then somebody uses Lazada more than Zalora and so forth. So you need to understand, and you need to be able to customize the experience according to what they use the most. And for that, you need to study behavior. So our business transformation office is manned, most of these people that are here are all data scientists. And those that have green circles are all graduates of LaSalle IME. Okay, so Kitabola is a LaSalle IME graduate, and so are the others that are under here. They underwent an 18-month training for data science together with our partner, the United Health Group. So this is the group that does it, and the way we orchestrate digital transformation is essentially along these 4 areas. And that's why, again, which brings me back to my to the emphasis of my talk, which is IE is a relevant field of study because it amongst all the courses, I think it really has the discipline to cope with what's needed in the digital transformation journey. So we manage this across platforms, people, analytics, and journeys. In platform, we have embraced Agile. For most of you who do software development, you're probably familiar with Agile, but recently Agile also has moved out of information systems and has gone to different areas of the business. In fact, there's a term which is called Agile at scale, and Agile is really a combination of several concepts which we have in IE, which I've talked about. Heuristic decision making is equivalent to minimum viable product. Also, in terms of concept of, you put out something and let clients give you the feedback, cybernetics. You also want to move fast, so it's fail fast, succeed faster. All of this essentially is agile, and we're implementing it across our enterprise. People, as you do the transformation, you have to reskill people. You have to take a look at org design. You need to take a look at organizational behavior and roles, right? Which basically marries with, on the right-hand side, journeys. On journeys, we look at methods and procedures. And as such, roles are affected because we need to change roles as we plot out journeys. In journeys, client journeys, we use a method by a company which is called Strategy, and it's called Jobs to be Done, which focuses more on client needs rather than your own capability. So the traditional way of looking at it was you have a certain capability and you look for clients to sell it to. The Jobs to be Done method is looking at what clients need and then you adjust your capability. And then last but not the least is analytics. Now, across all of these 4, the different competencies that I talked about early in my presentation are all used. So my IE degree really has helped me a lot in enabling me and make me and helping me manage this transformation for the bank. So I think that brings me to the end of my presentation, right? But what I just like to say, right, that is that the Philippines is part of a global supply chain, and digital is disrupting all industries. We need to get our act together, not only industry by industry, but as a nation, right? Because there are certain predicates that we need to have in order for us to participate in a digital economy. National IDs, a national policy on paperless transactions, an alignment of the privacy policy, and then last but not the least, for me, we need to beef up cybersecurity because in digital, there are really a lot of loopholes, there's a lot of fraud if you're not able to have the predicates in place, which includes, again, national IDs and corollary to that, mandatory registration of mobile phones. So thank you. I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you so much for that insightful and wonderful talk, Mr. Hoxon. It's clear that the digital age as well as the digital economy is quite the wild card. But of course, a lot more information can be expanded on that. It is such an honor here. It's such an honor to be here with you today, actually. And our participants definitely feel the same way. As for our participants, the floor is once again open for your questions.
Yes, so you may kindly submit your questions in the Google form pinned in the comment section down below.
And we now have our first question from one of our participants, Samantha. Now, Samantha would like to ask, do you think that the digital setting is better overall in terms of finance? Are there any concerns on e-security or cyber attacks?
Yes, I think we're at a disadvantage because, as I mentioned, we really don't have a national digital strategy. What we've done is private enterprise has probably gone on, and in some cases, regulators in some industries are more ahead than others. So, as an example, I think we're far more advanced in terms of our cashless policy. So we allow wallets, electronic money providers, and so on. But we're behind in terms of, as I mentioned, implementation of national ID. Mandatory registration of phones, right? The most basic thing, right? The law on cybercrime. The law on cybercrime right now does not recognize phishing. Okay, that needs to be adjusted. It cannot. In terms of cybersecurity, if you take a look at it, I think there's a study done by Kaspersky. The regulators have not really been strict about making sure that the enabling industries have the right measures in place. As an example, I think Kaspersky their cybersecurity report last year said that 1 out of 3 Filipinos are free. So 1 out of 3 internet users in the Philippines usually have their credentials stolen or their accounts hacked.
Thank you for that answer. And now we have another question from an anonymous participant who's asking, there has been news and personal user experiences posted in social media regarding money fraud ever since online banking has been introduced in retail banking. What kind of approach in terms of problem solving did BPI apply for this to be minimized, if not completely eradicated?
It's very hard to eradicate because the system is based on trust, right? Now, the equivalent of your passbook now is your hand phone. The way that the attack vectors on this crime is done is that they try to gain your confidence and then they steal your credentials. In some cases, what they do is they send you an email which is trying to spearfish you, targets you. In some cases, they call you and then they pretend that there's somebody else, and they try to get your one-time passwords. The crime continues on, unfortunately. What we're trying to do in the bankers association in the Philippines, working with the authority to revamp the cybercrime law, to push for mandatory registration of handphones, and to push also for the adoption of the national policy. Because to build a digital system, we need to ensure that every participant in the system is a trusted entity. Currently, the issue that we have is that we have a lot of criminals in the Philippines who use phones to hack other people. By the way, if you go to YouTube, the hacking or the phishing tips can easily be downloaded, and they can teach you how to do it in 30 minutes. So the barriers of entry are very low. But on the other hand, there are things that you can do from an environment system to tighten up. This is what we're doing with the government. Now, from a bank perspective, we're tightening up our security measures. We have doubled our notices alerts that especially the alert that banks will never call you. Banks will never call you to tell you that your account is closed. They will close your account, right? Banks will never call you to ask for personal information, right? Secondly, what we did was we tried to move off from SMS, because SMS usually is as a form of authentication is the one that most if I may say fished or they fool clients into giving up their one transaction. So we moved into a mobile key system. For those that use our system, you can identify with that. So there are various measures that we're doing. So my answer to your question, I would say that it's still work in process, and we're working with the authority, and the industry is doing all it can to inform the public on how they can protect themselves.
Thank you for answering the question, Mr. Hoxon. It is true that a lot of cybersecurity issues are definitely pressing matters and not at all easy to solve. Now, moving on to our next question, Ian.
It's still nascent, still early days. But there's also a developing initiative in the BSP to look at CBDC, what we call Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC. Okay, and a number of central banks around the world are looking at it. And what's behind that is the cost of printing money, the cost of coinage. For example, when China started doing digital, they reduced the number of coins that they were making. Okay, because of that, their GDP improved by around 20 basis points. In our case, I think we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars just for minting coins and printing money. So if you issue a digital currency, very need our economies to be had, because you don't need to mint points anymore. However, it's still early days. They're working out the technology, they're working out the policy. I'm sure that cryptocurrency will be here to stay. But as of now, if you ask me, I still don't know. Maybe I'm old, but I still don't know how it crosses over to fiat currency. Okay.
Thank you so much for that very insightful answer, Mr. Hoxon. And of course, due to our limited time, I believe that this will be our last question, and it will be coming from an anonymous participant who is asking, What do you reply to people that would say that graduates of BS Industrial Engineering are not engineers?
well, they can say what they want, but usually the industrial engineering graduate manages other engineers. So you'll find that out, right? That industrial engineering is a multidisciplinary field, right? So we are the synthesis or the integration point when a number of engineers work together. So I've been in several jobs where I've had a civil engineer work for me and an electrical engineer and so forth. They're all specialized. And as I tell them, hey guys, you're all an inch wide and a mile deep, whereas I'm a mile wide and an inch deep. And that's why I'm a manager, because a mile wide and an inch deep is considered to management. So for me, board certification is not an issue, right? It's really how you build your brand. It's really how you use your IEC. And if you do it well, you'll find out that you manage most engineers. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Hoxon. Thank you so much for the answer. And of course, thank you for your time. To all of our participants, thank you once again for your questions. Mr. Hoxon, it is such an honor to learn from you about the different intricacies and the different protocols and standards of banking and how it is very much affected by the digital age. We highly appreciate your time today.
We truly do. And with that, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation for you flashed on the screen.
Now, given this 8th of May in the year of our Lord 2021 at De La Salle University, Taft Avenue, Manila, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Mr. Ramon Hoxon for sharing knowledge as a distinguished speaker in the success of aieCon 2021, Building the Industries of Tomorrow.
Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Ramon Hoxon.
Thank you.
You know, Josh, I gotta say, this is a wonderful start for day 2 of aieCon 2021, Building the Industries of Tomorrow. Amazing speakers with great insights and, of course, an incredible audience as well. Cannot forget about you guys.
That's right, Miguel, but we will now be having another 5-minute break. But wait up. What time is it? It's time for another raffle question. Get a chance to win a prize from one of aieCon's sponsors, Yummy to Tummy.
But before we announce our question, I would like to once again remind everyone to please fill in our general attendance log sheet pinned in the comment section down below and of course flashed on the screen. You may also fill up the sponsor promotions form to avail some special goodies from aieCon 2021's sponsors. Now, I cannot stress the importance of filling these two things up enough, so get to it, folks. So, Josh, could you give us the raffle question?
For our next raffle question is, what is your favorite topic or subject in industrial engineering and why? Once again, what is your favorite topic or subject in industrial engineering and why? Well, Miguel, IE covers most of, if not all of these subjects for all industries. So how about you, our lovely audience? Comment down your answers in the comment section below with the hashtag aieCon2021xYummyToTummy to get a chance to win a 10% discount e-voucher. Stay tuned until the end of the event for you might be one of the lucky winners of a raffle prize.
I can already see a few fascinating answers from our audience. Unfortunately, a lot of answers that I cannot quite wrap my head around just yet, though we would like to take this opportunity once again to recognize our amazing sponsors for the event. We'll be right back after the short break in a while, so please stay tuned and make yourselves feel at home.
IE Convention 2021, Building the Industries of Tomorrow, is co-presented by JP Morgan Chase, L'Oreal, Mondelez, Shopee, Unilever, Bake Sushi, Cozy Manila, Decor District, Emerson, First Day Diagnostics, Franchise Manila, Grizzlydo, Iceberg Insulated, Kenobi, Yummy 2 Tummy. This event is made possible by Boyson, Coca-Cola, Change Agent Academy. This event is brought to you by Global Link MP. Our media partners, ang Pahayagang Plaridel, Archers Network, Chinoy.tv, Diario Milenio, Edge TV, Engineering Wins PH, Green Giant FM, Ingeniero.org, Philippine Daily Inquirer, Villasalyon, Usapang Econ. Special thanks to Anakula Coffee, Arnie Dading Peachy Peachy, E. Bernardo Enterprises, Mice Kitchen Commissary, Papa Case, Sticker Street PH.
And we're back for our first breakout topic today on business development.
Yeah, and this is actually a really interesting topic though, Miguel. It's pretty cool how it's such a relevant topic in industrial engineering.
I know, right, Josh? Now, to introduce our very first breakout speaker for today, she is an industrial engineering graduate from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She also took up MS Environmental Science and Ecosystem Management at De La Salle University Taft.
She's now the NBS Business Development Advisor for Shell Philippines. Let's give a warm virtual applause to Mrs. Randy Latonio.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to join you virtually today. I want to thank the IMES team and the aaaIECON 2021 coordinating team for inviting me. I want to give a shout out to Abigail, Ria, Cards, Pee-wee, Timothy, and Martin, who gave me the ideas for today's presentation. So my name is Randy Latonio. I'm an IE alumna from UP Diliman. And I want to give also a shout out to any of my fellow org mates from UP SIAM, Circle of Industrial Engineering majors. So today I'm going to be talking about this catchphrase, building back better, which you may have heard in various online talks and webinars in the past few months. It fits very well with the topic of business development, which I've been asked to speak about today. So before we start, I'd like to ask you all to please pull out your mobile phones or your internet gadgets. And I'd like to invite you to type menti.com into the browser. You can see at the upper right of my screen, in the yellow box, menti.com. And please use code 56219454. So I hope you see that on the screen. So please enter that, and it would really be great if we have a bit of interaction at the beginning of this breakout session. And once you're in, please tell me what you currently do. So are you a student? Are you an educator, a teacher, or a professor, or maybe faculty staff? Are you an entrepreneur, a business professional, maybe a government official, a freelance worker, a homemaker, or other? So please go in and just quickly make a selection, and I'm going to test that we can see your responses now. Awesome, I can see the little dots. Great, so a number of you are students. We do have an educator in the room, some business professionals. There are a few others. I apologize, I didn't put enough categories for you. But we're seeing the numbers come up, and that's great. So maybe a bit more about me. I'm a business professional working for Shell in the Philippines, and I've been in the energy industry a little over 20 years now, working in a variety of roles, with my first role being as a junior consultant. I also did some commercial sales roles, project management roles, a few roles that were linked to policy and advocacy, and some roles in environment as well. So it's great. I'm really seeing the circles come up. I hope you can see it on your screens as well. So hello to all of the campuses who have dialed in, all the students who are in. All right. Okay, so I'll give you a few moments more, but thank you everyone for just filling that in. I feel that somehow, even virtually, we know each other a little better. And I would like to invite you to please keep Menti open for the next few slides. So I'm going to return to my main slides now. All right. So I'm about to show you now, everyone, a series of images. And I'd like to ask you, if you could, please type in Menti. So let me make sure that Menti is on the next slide. I'm going to move to the next slide now in Menti. Okay. I'm going to show you these series of images, and you can see two now on your screen. I'd like to ask you to type in Menti what you think of when you see these images. What words come to mind? Maybe what emotions do you feel when you see them? So when you see these images, what do you think of? And please keep your Menti open. It should open now to a second page where you can input some of the words that you think of when you see these slides. I'm going to show you a few more images. Maybe think about what do they have in common. And you can keep typing. There should be no limit to the number of words that you can enter and submit. I want to assure everyone, most of all to the students, this is not a trick question, and there are no grades or recitation for this, and your answers are anonymous as you type them in. So let's look at the word cloud that you're all creating as you type your answers in. Great. I hope you see my screen. I see some large words coming out in this word cloud. Pollution being one of the bigger ones. Disaster, yeah. Climate change. Destruction. Global warming. Environment. I see a few emotions listed here as well. Scary, panic, sadness, waste, chaos, hassle. So, you know, I feel the same when as I was collecting the pictures, the images, and preparing the slides. I feel the same way. To me, these are about disasters. This is about climate change. These are about world problems, plastic pollution, solid waste, destruction. So the biggest ones I resonate with me as well in terms of the words that you've identified. These to me are all sustainability issues. We cannot sustain quality life on this planet when we aren't able to steward the resources around us. So for me, it is about how can we steward better, and how can we maintain and manage and sustain better. So to everyone, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'm going to end the Menti now and move on with this presentation. So when you saw those images, there are several ways that you and I could go about it. And I'd like to highlight two. You could see the problems as challenges, difficulties, and impossibilities. You could see the plastic problem, traffic, forest fires, overflowing and poorly maintained landfills. But you could also see potential, opportunity, a new way of looking at the problem. You could turn a problem into a new revenue stream, or even reduce costs. These are both images taken in the Philippines. On the left, it shows the plastic waste problem that we face as a nation. We are top 3 in the world for plastic waste pollution. The other on the right hand shows you an eco-brick, which is made from plastic waste. The first eco-brick building is the Shell Lube Bay, located in Plaridel, Bulacan, which was built in partnership between Shell and the Green Ants builders. And so you can see problems or opportunities. As industrial engineers, you have the skill and the ability to analyze issues like this and find solutions. For example, what can we do about our plastic problem? You have many tools at your fingertips. We can, for example, run it through an Ishikawa fish diagram. We can do root cause analysis. We can throw statistical equations at the problems or even derivatives at it. We can carry out surveys and identify what the best solution might be for society, for a particular barangay or community. Can we avoid plastics altogether? Can we reduce our usage? Can we recycle? I believe we can and we should test all these ideas. But in the example that I have on the slide, we can develop a solution to recycle plastic waste and turn it into something long-term and useful, like eco-bricks or furniture or clothing or other inventions. We can then pull together a process or production flow to get from point A, the pollution source, to point B, the eco-brick. We can identify the most efficient flow. We can even do a time and motion study and identify where things aren't working in the process. There's a chance for us to do something at almost every sequence in the process. And in many cases, some of the hardest issues to solve are actually outside the standard processes that we're familiar with. So for example, when it comes to the plastic problem, one of the biggest issues that has yet to be figured out or resolved or funded is how to actually get the plastic waste to the facilities that can properly manage, clean, and recycle them. It sounds like a small problem, but if you look and research at what the struggle is in the circular economy for plastic pollution, you'll realize that this is actually one of the biggest ones that need help being solved. So IE trains us to think about how to optimize, how to organize, and how to improve methods and operations. And I feel IE is like a superpower. I hope you feel the same way too. The best part is that we can apply what we know and what we've learned in IE to small problems, as well as to some of today's biggest dilemmas, and we can provide solutions. Many of these IE skills are needed in business development roles. So let me move on to business development specifically. So business development is about creating long-term value for your business. It can involve finding new opportunities in your existing business and or developing completely new opportunities. It requires key skills in some areas that I'm going to discuss here on this slide. One of the first key skills that business development requires is creativity. New ideas, innovations, the ability to think out of the box, to look at existing problems in new ways, and to help others do the same. These are some of the key things that you need to do with creativity. Analysis and strategy. You need to be able to analyze situations and issues, use external market research, and even internal company data, identify problems, determine what makes commercial sense to do, and define a strategy to make it happen. A third skill is good communications. You need to be able to listen well, understand what the other party is saying, the ability to simplify complex topics, networking and working well with others, building stakeholder relationships and then managing them, building a common vision and purpose with different stakeholders, being able to influence and know what to say, when to say, and how to say it. A fourth skill is negotiation. You need to be able to identify your counterparty's value drivers. That is, what drives value for them? What is the intent or the motivation for the project that they want to do or the deal that they want to make? You need to be able to look at how to compromise, how to give and take in order to make a deal that is win-win for both sides. Next is organizational skill. This is something that IE definitely embeds in each of us as we go through our undergrad. It's the ability to manage multiple tasks moving forward or moving toward the goal. The ability to be able to work through multiple opportunities as well at the same time. It's about knowing when to delegate, knowing when to draw skills of other experts and other people, and ensuring each person who is on the project team or working alongside with you in the supporting function is also moving towards the same goal. And last, project management. This is about being able to streamline and simplify, being able to put order in the chaos, keep things on track, and identify and meet critical milestones. And I believe what you're learning today in IE gives you an edge in the business world. My role in Shell is about investing in natural ecosystems. In the Philippines, I'm the business development lead for nature-based solution opportunities. I identify and develop opportunities for protecting and restoring nature, which has the wonderful benefits of helping both forest and agricultural communities improve their quality of life, as well as enhance biodiversity. As this is a new business for Shell, there's no manual or process that tells us exactly how to get to our destination. It entails a lot of creativity, an open mindset to explore, and the willingness to learn. Each opportunity within Shell is screened through several decision gates, reviewed from all angles, such as technical, commercial, policy, regulatory positions, social, safety, security, and the list goes on. Plans are defined and then refined. And all this requires the ability to build trust and relationship with new people, engaging the right subject matter experts, and keeping the key stakeholders involved and informed. In ventures like this, there's always more than one party involved. So the ability to understand your counterparty is crucial. What are their values, and how can you arrive at mutually beneficial outcomes? Business development requires the ability to juggle these tasks simultaneously for one project, and there can be several projects happening at the same time in the same period. So much of the skills in the yellow boxes that you see, I've gained, and I'm still gaining over time through practice, making mistakes, and learning from others who have the experience. But I can definitely say that what I learned in my IE undergrad provided me a solid foundation to move ahead. I really only needed to top up in the environmental field, thanks to my MS in environmental management in De La Salle. But I believe the basic building blocks in IE were already there. And I hope this gives you a promising perspective into what you can do. There might be some interest in NBS, and so I'd be happy to take questions during the Q&A session. Let me now also whet your appetite here with a few more slides. I'll share a bit more about what NBS is and how Shell applies it in business. On this slide, you can see nature-based solutions comprise all activities related to the protection or redevelopment of natural ecosystems. The ecosystems that you see on this slide absorb greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These are the same greenhouse gas emissions that the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, and the Conference of Parties are addressing. Unfortunately, through natural disasters and man-made industrial growth, many of these ecosystems have been damaged and lost worldwide, including the Philippines. NBS is about seeing nature as part of the solution to climate change and an aid in disaster risk resilience. So what can be done for these ecosystems? Well, as you can see, wetlands include peatlands and marshes, like our Agusan marshland. It can also include coastal areas, and these areas can be restored and protected. Forests cover both terrestrial and mangrove forests, and we can protect these forests through where possible by avoiding deforestation and instead improving forest management and also restoring it through reforestation or afforestation. For agriculture and grasslands, we can improve soil nutrient management. We can consider using more natural fertilizers such as biochar for soil amendment. We can restore trees and avoid grassland conversion. And for blue carbon, this is what we could learn looking at. Research and development is being done on seagrass and algae and other sediments. And this is a growing R&D space for carbon. So why is Shell doing this? This is about long-term vision. This is about business development, identifying new opportunities. It's about seeing some of today's world problems like climate change, the global energy challenge, and setting an ambition to be in step with society's ambition to achieve a 1.5 degrees Celsius scenario. On the next slide, I'm going to share about how NBS is applied in Shell. So in this example on the slide, you can see that in the first stage, we are identifying customers who have CO2 emissions, which are hard to avoid due to the fuels or energy that they use. This is the problem or the challenge that we're trying to help resolve. So Shell is investing in natural ecosystems to protect and restore them in collaboration with forest communities who live there in order to generate carbon stock that can then be validated and verified by third-party accreditation bodies, thus generating high-quality carbon credits, which can be used in the international trading system. Each carbon credit represents the avoidance or the removal of 1 ton of CO2. The carbon credits from such projects are then bundled into offers to customers who purchase Shell's fuels and energy services in order to offset their emissions. These credits are then retired for customers who opt into the program, which also ensures that those credits cannot be reused or purchased by others, thus ensuring the integrity of the credit. So to give you one last view of what Shell is doing in the nature-based solution space, I'd like to show this short video clip. And for those interested in knowing more, the QR code on the right will take you to a website that provides more information as well. So if we could show that video. I hope you enjoyed that video. And again, the QR code is on your screen now to the right. If you're interested in knowing more about nature-based solutions in Shell, that QR code will take you to the website that provides more information. So in closing, so that I can allow more time for Q&A, I believe what you're doing and you're learning today in IE gives you an edge in the business world that need solving. You can check even within your own neighborhood, your online communities, your campus, among your classmates. In fact, when I spoke to the coordinating team last week, they shared that the IE students are reaching out to small and medium businesses and helping promote them. I think this is a perfect example of where business development can contribute. And you're already beginning to gain the skills needed in the business development space. Let me end with this. There's a saying that goes, engineers make things, but industrial engineers make things better. I want to encourage everyone. Let's go and let's make things better. So thank you and stay safe. And I'm here for the Q&A.
Thank you so much for the insightful talk, Ms. Latoño, and thank you very much for that wonderful quote. I'm sure that all of the industrial engineers in the audience will take that to heart and take on the challenge of making the world a better place. And it is nice to see that all sorts of companies and, well, groups in general are taking steps in order to clean up our act, both figuratively and, of course, literally. We are so glad to have with you today, and we will now be having our Q&A. Now, to our participants, the floor is open for your questions. Once again, kindly submit your questions in the Google form pinned in the comment section down below.
Our first question comes from Hannah, who is asking, what role do industrial engineers have, and what can industrial engineers do with the skills and knowledge that they may have in relation to the issue of climate change?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Hannah. So as I shared, I think everyone actually plays a role in doing something more, living more sustainably, for example, in order to make the world a better place and issues that we have. I think I shared with you just one of the examples in business development. These are, climate change and all these issues. If they were simple, they would have been solved years ago. I think that the challenge is that it's much bigger than what we see or understand it to be. some of the biggest issues I think that have to deal with climate change is the fact that it's a global problem. It's not something that's isolated in one country. It crosses borders. So air pollution, climate change pollution, carbon emissions, all of these things are cross borders and they're not limited to only one country. Therefore, it's not about just one country resolving it. The challenge that we've had with climate change has always been more a political issue and how countries are trying to come together to agree on certain things. And so what the Paris Agreement did during its COP a few years back was to try to bring nations together again and to have these talks. And to identify how can each country contribute or provide a commitment in order to resolve the issues and in order to reduce the increase in temperature rise. So to mitigate that risk. And I believe, for example, IEs could have played a part. I'm sure there were industrial engineers who may have participated even in when the Philippines was putting together its nationally determined contribution, the NDC, which was submitted a month back. These are things that if you are interested, you can identify a particular role or a specific space that you can play in. And it could be on the policy side. It could be, like I mentioned, on the process side. So things to do with actual carbon accounting or carbon stock assessment, or identifying, like what we're doing in nature-based solutions, how to resolve some of the challenges that even our forest communities are facing on the ground, whether to protect, for example, the forests that they live in, or to slowly degrade it because they have no other form or means of income. I think IEs are able to look at these problems and actually find potential solutions to make it work. And it doesn't have to be about solving climate change as a whole, but it's the little bits that we can contribute and the little parts that we can add to a whole to then reduce the risk of climate change.
Thank you for the wonderful answer, Ms. Latonio. And it seems that industrial engineers definitely have a lot to live up to and a lot to work on, but I'm sure that you guys are totally on top of that. Now, moving on to our next question, we have a question from Krissa who would like to ask, in what way does the pandemic affect the workforce in the company in developing sustainability?
That's a good question. Yeah, the pandemic affecting the workforce. I think even if you remove sustainability from that question, the pandemic has impacted the workforce. I think if we're to look at it, and the view that I have is that actually there's a lot of opportunity through the pandemic for companies to take a deeper look at maybe their own sustainability policies. It is about business development, looking at the existing way we work in new ways and finding new opportunities. And I think what the pandemic has brought about is just that ability for companies to look inwards and to see that, and then to understand where can they make a difference? How can they become a sustainable company over the next 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years? I think sustainability plays a huge role in that. And so, in fact, I believe more and more companies are probably now actually hiring more experts and consultants in the space of sustainability. They need more insight in how to make their businesses more resilient for the future. And just think about the customer segments that we have now. There's, I think, a larger, wider customer segment that is more concerned about climate, more concerned about single-use plastics and not wanting to use it, more concerned about, how can I reduce the carbon footprint that I have? And so businesses should see that there's this opportunity opening up. And either businesses can follow behind what the direction customers are going in, or businesses can take a lead and influence and show customers where we should be going, what benchmarks should we be trying to hit. And I think that's an opportunity for IEs to come in with that sustainability mindset, plus all the other capabilities and tools that IEs have. The ability to think of continuous improvement, the ability to organize, the ability for project management, and then just be able to then apply that with a sustainability lens for new businesses. So while I do feel the pandemic has definitely impacted the workforce, I do think that the workforce, or many companies today, are actually expanding roles in sustainability, in climate change, in about, how can we reduce our carbon footprint? How can we look at net zero emissions and make our businesses more adaptable for that future?
Thank you for that very comprehensive answer, Ms. Sotonio. The pandemic really has impacted the workforce in all industries, and it's very interesting to see how different companies are attempting to overcome this problem. Moving on, however, an anonymous participant asks, how can we measure and demonstrate the contribution of nature-based solutions in improving public health?
Okay, thank you to the anonymous participant. Sorry, I'm going to take another look at that question. Sorry, could you flash the question one more time? How can we measure and demonstrate the contribution of nature-based solutions to improving public health? Okay, the way I would look at this, if I am looking at it through the lens which, for example, Shell would do in some of its nature-based solutions projects, is that the biggest part of working in natural ecosystems is that, or like forests, for example, is that they're not empty places. People live in forests. There are communities that are already living and dwelling in forests. And in many cases, these are forests that are located in rural areas without access to normal facilities like public health facilities, or even educational facilities, medical, etc. I believe as we are working towards projects that benefit not only the ecosystem, so the protection and restoration of forests, but also working with the communities, collaborating with them, trying to understand what is causing the deforestation that's happening in their forests, and then working with the communities to understand, are there alternative livelihoods, for example, that can be provided to them that could compensate for maybe the loss of livelihood that they might have had by destroying the forests around them, or by even poaching some of the wildlife there. If we turn them away from that sort of practice to a more sustainable alternative livelihood, we're slowly helping the communities to actually improve their quality of life. And as we do so, the benefit of doing these as carbon projects, which is what Shell is looking at, by doing them as forest carbon projects, there is carbon financing that comes into play. And the carbon financing can actually be used to uplift the communities who are living in the forest. So things like public health facilities, educational facilities, even maybe perhaps microfinancing in other institutions. These are things that are, in a sense, co-benefits to what nature-based solutions projects can provide. So I hope that answers the question. It's a bit of a long answer, but hopefully to provide the context around how NBS can support in the public health space.
Thank you for the answer, Ms. Latonia. It's good to see that nature-based solutions also benefit humans as well, not just Mother Earth. Let's all try to get a bit of harmony in the mix, of course. Now, moving on to our next question, our participant would like to ask, in your opinion, what are crucial extracurricular activities that...
Okay, I like that question. So I would say extracurricular activities or additional subjects that you could use to learn from. For me, I feel that these are all important for enhancing your existing knowledge. I think when you go even into interviews with companies, some of the questions they're going to ask you are not limited to what you've done or what your undergrad course or what you've done in other companies. Many of the questions they're going to ask may also be around just day-to-day issues. What's the world facing, what's happening right now in Myanmar, and how could you resolve things like that. And so it always helps to actually have a much wider view than maybe the interest or the focus area that you have. So I definitely would encourage, I would say, don't just jump into an extracurricular activity or subject just because your classmates are doing it. I would really encourage you to know and understand what your passion is. What are you passionate about? I mean, I made a presentation on nature-based solutions. I'm passionate about the environment, and I'm passionate about what we can do for the forest communities here. But maybe that's not your passion. And so it's important, I think, for you to understand what is it that you're passionate about. And I would definitely say, identify what more can you learn about that subject matter. And there's so much free material and sessions online, things like Coursera, edX. I mean, these are all online courses that you can do that are free, and they have a myriad of subjects that you can choose from. Anything from the IT space to outer space, to environment, to legal policy. So you can really, depending on what it is, I think it's definitely worthwhile to enhance. And then I would encourage you, don't stop just where you are as a student in searching for extracurricular activities or learning about other topics or subject matters. I would definitely encourage you, even when you're working in your career, no matter how successful you may be, it's always worthwhile to continue enhancing your knowledge, learn about new things, learn about things that are happening in the world. This is also part of business development as you begin to understand some of the dilemmas, the issues that other places are facing, beginning to see sort of the shift that the world is taking towards a certain area or towards a certain subject. And if you're interested in that, that's what you should learn more about. And get ahead of the game so that when your company or when the rest of the world gets there, you've already enhanced your knowledge and you're ready to raise your hand and say, well, I'm the person you need for that role. I know exactly how to lead it. I know exactly what solutions would work for you. So yeah, I hope that helps answer.
Thank you for the question once again, Ms. Latonia. We highly appreciate your answers. And well, this is going to be our last question due to our time constraints. Now, Paul would like to ask, in the Philippines, what are we doing in order to mitigate the issue of climate change? Do we have the technology or resources to make an impact?
Yeah, this is good because you're thinking about the question and the dilemma in the context of our country. I would encourage you, Paul, and anyone else who's interested to take a look at the recent submission that the Philippines made for its NDC. So that's NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution. This is the commitment that each country makes to the Paris Agreement, which the Philippines ratified a few years ago. This is basically outlines publicly what the Philippines wants to do in order to tackle the issue of climate change. And my personal view is there are many opportunities to actually look into how we can, maybe in our own ways, help resolve some of the issues there. It talks about a number of things. There's transport, the energy sector. It mentions agriculture as well, and solid waste. There are elements of forestry as well that it talks about. And each of these play part to the commitment on how we want to reduce the impact of our own emissions on climate. Only be able to accomplish this commitment if we have, let's say, funding and expertise, knowledge provided from maybe international governments or other company, maybe private companies as well. So there is definitely I would say a loud call for help in what we've put out to say we are ready and we will commit as a country, but we do need help and we need support in this. So to answer the question directly, are we able to do it? I would say not on our own. Probably not yet, given the technical capacity we have. That's one of the I think elements that you're going to see from the NDC is that we definitely we're looking for support, both financially, but even technically as well. So the technical sharing of knowledge across from other countries. I definitely believe academic institutions, other research institutions, even private companies can definitely contribute and play a part in how we can resolve this. And I believe that the government is quite open actually and willing to learn from even private sector and academic groups. I'm sure, as you know, even civil society organizations, they're open to learn about new technologies, how to access it, and how to apply it to make sure that it works in the sectors that we've identified and in our commitment to climate change.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions. And of course, thank you so much for your knowledge and time, Ms. Lutonio. We highly appreciate it.
We really do. And with that said, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation for you, flashed on the screen.
Given this day, 18th of May, in the year of the Lord 2021 at De La Salle University, Taft Avenue, Manila, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Ms. Randy Latonio for sharing knowledge as a distinguished speaker in the success of aieCon 2021, Building the Industries of Tomorrow. Once again, thank you so much, Ms. Randy Latonio.
Thank you so much as well for having me.
Once again, we'll be having another quick break, but you guessed it, that's right. It means it's time for yet another raffle. Though before the raffle question, we would just like to give the usual reminder. Please fill in our general attendance log sheet pinned in the comment section below, as well as flashed on the screen. Once again, please fill in the general attendance log sheet. Yes, the link is on the screen. And you may also fill up the sponsor promotion form to avail some special goodies from our aieCon 2021 sponsors.
That's really interesting, though. I wonder what the next question will be for this raffle segment.
Well, wonder no more, my friend. The next raffle question is, of course, What is one quality that an industrial engineer must possess? This seems to be an interesting one, and I cannot wait for all of the wonderful answers that you guys have prepared. Now, comment down your answers with the hashtag #iECON2021 X Iceberg Insulated in the comment section to get a chance to win one of 3 iceberg insulated water bottles.
That's a really great prize, and we're so excited to know what's on your mind. So be sure to comment down below what quality an industrial engineer should possess, and get the chance to win a water bottle from Iceberg Insulated. Now, as all of you are commenting your answers, we would also like to take this opportunity to plug Mondelez's virtual caravan.
Well, speaking of the virtual caravan, are you curious to know what Edge Sparks is all about? We've got you covered. Check out what's in it for you when you join Mondelez Southeast Asia's signature internship experience. Now, to find out more, please register for our virtual caravan to be held on May 14, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. by following the link to be posted below.
Do check it out, and we have the link down in the comment section below for everyone's convenience. With that, we'll be back and see you all again after the break.
Here we go. It's about time that we set it off. Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legends.
We see smarter software delivering cleaner power. Emerson's breakthrough technology enables the power industry to integrate renewable energy sources to modernize and improve the electric grid. Emerson, consider it solved. We see breakthrough medicines getting to patients in
Landing on your dream job will have a huge impact on your success. Good news is that we compiled everything you need to know in one ebook. Introducing Build Your Engineering Career version 2, your complete guide in landing your dream job in the engineering industry. Creating an outstanding resume, acing that interview, salary negotiation, and more. Check out this link to download yours now.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you guys had the chance to get some drinks, get a bit of water, maybe a snack, maybe even stretch your muscles, because we are definitely not quite done. Now, to introduce our second breakout speaker with the topic on quality and reliability engineering. He graduated with a BS and MS in industrial engineering degree at De La Salle University and was a former engineering college president. He started as a graduate trainee and demand planner in Mondelez, Philippines. Currently, he is the project commercialization manager for gums, candies, beverages, and meals in Southeast Asia for Mondelez, Philippines.
Let's all give a warm virtual applause to our breakout speaker, Mr. Mick Gutierrez.
Are you able to hear me and see my screen? Great. Thank you so much to all of the hosts that introduced me. So yeah, my name is Mick Gutierrez. If you don't mind, I would also like to introduce myself a little bit more informally, just because whenever I used to be a student, and whenever I attended talks like this, and the speakers would be introduced to me, they were such superstars, and I always felt that they were all high and mighty outliers instead of the common average student, right? And I had difficulty in relating to them. So hopefully my objective in introducing myself a little bit more informally is to bridge that gap and make it a little bit more relatable. My name is Mick Gutierrez. I'm ID 108 from DLSU. I'll do the math for you. That means I'm 30 years old. That was around 10 years ago that I started my college education. I'm also married to a 109 CED student, which is not a student anymore, obviously. And like a lot of engineering students, I loved hanging out in the in the education building, because that's where all the pretty girls were. Matter of fact, that's how me and my wife actually got together. I always used to sit in her classes until she eventually said yes to me. I'm a certified geek. I love Pokemon with that picture, that obvious. Game of Thrones, Marvel. I'm also an aspiring cook. So if you ever have a convention on takoyaki cooking, please invite me as well, because I'm an expert takoyaki maker. Yeah. My favorite and least favorite industrial engineering subject, my favorite would definitely be operations research. I think that subject was totally fascinating, has so many diverse applications. My least favorite subject would probably be statistics, engineering statistics. We call it QAMIT in the LSU. For the simple reason that I'll never forget my quiz 1 score, which was 12 over 100. But you know, I'm here now talking to you as a success story. So I guess it's my like started from the bottom, look where I'm at now moment. Yeah. And my favorite and least favorite DLSU prof, since I know a lot of you are from DLSU, my favorite professor is, of course, Mr. Dennis Cruz, my thesis advisor. Sir Dennis, if you're listening to this talk, please know that not a day goes by that I don't think of you and I miss you every day. My least favorite professor is, of course, I'm not going to tell you that. What kind of person do you think I am? This is a professional forum and I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah? So 2 weeks ago, my HR approached me and told me that I will be talking to engineering students across different countries, different universities. Basically to highlight how has industrial engineering helped me in my career. And so I've been reflecting on that topic for the past several days. And today I come to you with what I call my 3 reasons why I think industrial engineering is really cool and good for your future career. Okay. I'll go to my first reason. I don't know how many of you have been able to hear this from friends, from family, but I myself have heard it so many times in the office, with friends, with family, where people tell me, I'm not really able to use the things I learned in college in my work. I used to study all of these fancy equations, these fancy theories, all of these sophisticated software. But you know, at the end, in my work, I only use Excel. I only add, subtract, multiply, divide. But strangely enough, I have never heard that statement come from an industrial engineer. And that goes, and so I go to my first reason. You actually use what you learn. There is a very funny and relevant story where there's this particular class back in college. I remember it was on production management with Sir Atienza. I don't know if Sir Atienza is still talking. If Sir Atienza, if you're there, hello. Hi, I'm here now. And he was talking to me in class. He was teaching us about production MOQ, minimum order quantity. And I distinctly remember in my head when he was talking about that topic, I was thinking to myself, I don't think I will ever use this piece of information in my entire life. I'm going to memorize this equation. I'm going to pass the exam. And after that, I'm going to forget about this. And I guess you can call it serendipity. But literally, I'm not making this up. I couldn't make it up. But last week, my boss called me up and he told me he wanted me to prepare a comprehensive analysis on the production MOQ in our plant of our top SKUs that we're producing so that we could minimize cost, increase efficiency, blah, 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 blah. The point is, your curriculum, all of the classes that you're taking now, every little bit of information that you process with your classes right now, for some serendipitous reason, the curriculum of industrial engineering has remained relevant, and matter of fact is not just remained, but is actually growing in terms of relevance to the point where I would really, really encourage you to not just memorize them for the sake of passing your subjects, but actually really internalizing them. And you know, it's not just about that. A couple of months ago, I was also involved in a project where we were involved in the design of a new warehouse for our company. And I was able to use so many concepts coming physically, the areas of these two functions would be closer to each other, than this function. Because you're taking into consideration the flow of information, the flow of physical goods, and that feeds into facilities planning. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, maybe it's just because you're already in a high position in your career that you're actually able to be more theoretical. That's not true also. In my internship with the company that I won't name, but I'll give you a hint. It starts with the letter N and it rhymes with Esley. I also developed a software there which used linear programming to optimize production scheduling and minimize cleaning, minimize changeover costs. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that with industrial engineering, the things that you learn are actually useful and they will help you succeed in your career moving forward. And I think that is something that not a lot of courses are actually able to boast about. At least in the bigger scheme of things, yeah. And so my takeaway from my reason one is really do take your major seriously, because it will be really valuable for you in the long run. That's reason number one. I'll go to my reason number two in a while. I don't know how many of you have encountered this, but I've heard people say that IE, doesn't that just mean an instant engineer? Why? Because of all of the engineering disciplines, we're actually one of the few, I think, if not the only one, that doesn't have a licensure exam. They think that because we're industrial engineers, we're less hardcore than them. And it's the easiest engineering. Well, my 12 over 100 score would say otherwise. But realistically, what I'm saying is that CEOs, managers, entrepreneurs, a lot of really, really successful people don't have licenses. And I think that is because, and of course, I'm not reducing the value of professions that do, but I'm saying that there are also a lot of really high value positions and individuals who are able to contribute even without a license, right? And so for me, IE is not instant engineer, but it's my reason number two. IE for me stands for interconnections engineer. And the reason why I say that is because I really do believe that the industrial engineer is at the forefront and specializes in making sure that they have a full system perspective, that they are able to see the different mechanisms that are ongoing in an ecosystem and are able to draw relevant significances, relevant relationships between the two of them, and finding a way to make everything optimum and make everything work together, right? One of the things that I realized, and I'm sure you will realize when you go to your career someday, is that in the industry, in almost any industry that you walk into, there will always be two sides of the business. There is the technical side and there is the commercial side. The technical side is, of course, your engineering, your machines, your production, your manufacturing, your R&D, and the commercial side is, well, the commercial side. It's commerce. It's how you turn all of that into a business and make money. Now, the thing that you will realize with these two sides of a business is that these two sides, they don't understand each other. They don't understand each other. You try to talk to a technical guy about profit and margin and making money, and they're not going to understand that. You talk to a commercial guy, to a marketer, and tell them, you're talking about line efficiency and line balancing, and they're not going to understand that. The industrial engineer is here in the middle, and they are the ones that are able to bridge the needs of this group and this group and facilitate a meaningful conversation between that two so that you would be able to achieve your business objectives. And I'll talk about that for two reasons why the industrial engineer is perfect for that position. Number one, in terms of your actual curriculum, we're one of the very few engineering curriculums that actually cover a wide plethora of subjects that cater to both the technical and the commercial. You have your IE commerce, you have your accounting, you have your economics, you have your product design, and of course, diverse in terms of their application. What am I saying? I'm saying if you study chemical equations, then you're only going to be able to use them when you're dealing with chemicals. If you study hydraulics equations and thermodynamics equations, you're only going to use them when you're dealing with hydraulics and thermodynamics. But if you study operations research, maximizing profit, minimizing cost, that can apply to the efficiency of a line, that can apply to product parameters, that could apply to profit, that could apply to cost. House of Quality, I hope you've heard of House of Quality. It's a very powerful tool that's taught to us in industrial engineers. A house of quality is equally as relevant to designing a product as it is relevant to designing an organizational structure. Really, the diversity of application of the tools that you learn are astounding. And so again, I really do encourage everyone to make sure that you really put a lot of focus there. There is another point that I do want to talk about, yeah? Again, I'll go back to my point on CEOs and managers and why I think, they don't need licenses to prove to the world how successful they are. It's because there's also this subset of skills for all of you to learn. Having the ability to solve a problem and come up with a solution is only 50% of the task. The other 50% is having the ability to communicate that solution and influence it to your relevant stakeholders. And that is the reality of work that's ahead of you. Yeah. So I want to leave you with this second piece of advice from paring Elon, paring Bill, and me. Focus on your soft skills as well. Make sure that you get involved not just in your studies, but also get involved with your professional organizations, with your political organizations. Develop not just the ability to think critically, but also really, really develop your soft skills, your ability to lead, your ability to influence, your ability to speak, your ability to translate complex ideas into simple terms. These are things that an industrial engineer should be an expert on. Because really, when you're in the middle of the technical and the commercial, and you carry this subset, you are in your prime. You are in your prime and you will be set for success moving forward. Yeah. The third reason, and this is my last reason, is this. You are a water bear. Now, probably a lot of you are thinking, oh my God, why did they get this speaker? He's talking crazy now. Please don't. I'm really trying my best, so don't judge me. For all of you people who are not as cultured as me, the water bear, who is also called the tardigrade, is a creature. This is a real creature, by the way. If you watch Ant-Man, you've probably seen this. The water bear or the tardigrade is the most badass, most most resilient creature in the entire world. It can survive freezing temperatures. It can survive boiling temperatures. It can survive the strongest pressures under the ocean, and they can even survive in space. And industrial engineers are tardigrades because industrial engineers can thrive in literally any industry. I have colleagues, industrial engineer colleagues, who work in fashion, in apparel, in healthcare, in telecommunications, in electronics manufacturing. I myself, I used to work for personal care manufacturing, and now I work for food manufacturing industry. Matter of fact, have you ever paused and thought to yourself, why are you called industrial engineers? It's literally because this engineering can be useful, can be applied to literally almost any industry, probably with the exception of showbiz. I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about, yeah. And so, I want to bring it now to the context of the pandemic. In no way do I want to downplay the impact that this pandemic has had on the world and on the industry. A lot of people would say that it's been a really difficult time, and it's true. For a lot of people, the pandemic is chaos. But let me try to put things in a different perspective. For the industrial engineer, chaos, the pandemic, COVID is not a pit. COVID is a ladder. All across industries, top lines, profits are falling. And that's simple. It's because with the pandemic, the purchasing power of people has gone down. Governments are struggling. Businesses are struggling. And what's the only thing for a business to do when businesses are falling is to cut costs, is to make sure that all of their operations are as efficient as possible and that everything is as low cost and as optimized as possible. And ladies and gentlemen, guess what branch of engineering specializes in that kind of thinking? Yep, you've guessed it. It's industrial engineering. So, I would really say that the pandemic, has changed a lot. But people, individuals, and organizations who have been able to adapt and use it to their advantage can also turn the situation around and actually make it into an advantage. Yeah. And bringing it now to a more realistic conversation, also adding a little bit of personal insight to it. I consider myself really lucky that I'm also working with a good organization. So I'm currently part of Mondelez Philippines. One of the unique things about my company is that we're one of the few companies, I would say, in the country where both the commercial office and the manufacturing plant are literally beside each other. Yeah. So in one meeting room, literally in one meeting room, I have scientists talking about how to improve the taste of Cadbury chocolate, or I have scientists thinking about the next big flavor of Tang. And in the other meeting room, I have executives talking about how to grow the business of Oreo, how to bring in and make bigger the business of Philadelphia cheese here in the Philippines. And like I mentioned in reason number 2, there is a very strong interlinkage between the technical and the commercial side of businesses, and the industrial engineer sits right smack in the middle. And with that kind of dynamic, it's really helped me a lot. But of course, this is not me selling my company to you. This is me telling you that you need to find your place too. Yeah. And maybe if you'll allow me to end my little talk with a few words of wisdom. find a company that will grow you as a person and not just your salary. You know, the work, the company that you will eventually apply for is the company, the place that you will probably be spending your weekdays on, at least 8 hours of all of your weekdays from now till you're 60 years old. You'll be spending it with that company, you know. And, you know, a lot of, not every company in the world would be able to grow your salary aligning to the expectations that you would want. But I can tell you that there are a lot of companies too that can meet them and probably even exceed them. But for me, there are only really a handful of companies that don't just say it, but also walk the talk when they say that they also care for your well-being, that they care also about how you are as a person and how you deliver, what values you bring to the table, that you're able to deliver a business result rather than just the actual monetary value that you bring to the table. And you know, if you're going to be spending a significant amount of your lifetime working with a company, then you better make sure that you're not just doing it for the money, but you're also there to improve who you are as a person and how you're able to add more meaning, more value into your life, as well as the people that are around you. And those are my 3 reasons why I think industrial engineering is really, really cool and why I think it's really good for your future career. That's it. That's my talk. Thank you.
That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the inspiring talk, Mr. Mick. And may I just say, sir, that your choice of visuals for your PowerPoint taught me its importance, its benefits. I'm sure that they had resonated with a lot of the industrial engineers attending today and have inspired them to further pursue their careers. Now, with all of that said, we will now be moving on to our question and answer. The floor is once again open to our dear participants.
If you have any questions for Mr. Mick, kindly submit your questions in the Google form pin in the comment section down below.
And I believe we have our first question from Nicole, who asks, what do you think are the skills industrial engineers should have to constantly grow as leaders in this fast-paced oriented world?
Okay. Hi, Nicole. There are a lot of skills. There are really a lot of skills that you need to learn. Like I mentioned, it should always be a balance between developing your technical skills and developing your soft skills. For technical skills, I'm not going to go into anything specific because that one will probably be a bit of a longer discussion. Let's say, for example, if you go into an electronics or a manufacturing industry, then probably operations research would be something that you're going to be really useful for you. If you're gonna go into product design, you're probably going to be talking about ANOVA, if you still remember those kinds of tools. But for me, I think one general technical skill that will be useful for all industrial engineers would be systems thinking. Like I mentioned to you before, there are so many engineering disciplines. And matter of fact, let me take a step back. I think one of the big pitfalls of a lot of engineering disciplines is that the area of expertise, the area of knowledge is so focused, is so specialized that sometimes practitioners, and I'm not saying everyone, but within that system and is able to see how those different parts are able to interact with each other. So I think that's a general technical skill that's really again, I'll have to go back to that. And you might say I'm like a broken record repeating myself, but really the number of times that I've seen this happen in the industry, I cannot count anymore. A technical guy comes to the meeting and explains to all of these big wig bosses and say, this is the problem, the line efficiency is blah, blah, blah. I'm having difficulty with this balancing because this machine part and this then that machine part and the viscosity of the machine. And at the end of the day, you're feeding your audience with so much information that the final thesis statement that you wanted a simple yes or no to becomes lost in translation. So I think that's also a critical skill that industrial engineers need to work on. A matter of fact, is in a position that should be an expert on.
Skills, because I also feel like that's not just relevant to IE students, but in fact to all other fields. Moving on, however, we have another anonymous participant who is asking, do you have any words of reassurance for an IE student who is kind of struggling with academics?
Oh yeah. So to Mr. Anonymous, let me start off by saying relax. Be kind to yourself. Like I don't know if you heard what I said, yeah? But I'll never forget my score in quiz 1 of IE statistics. 12 over 100. Say it with me. 12 over 100. I was taken aback. I could not believe it. And this is coming from someone who, who used to excel academically back in high school. Things get better. Even when you come to the industry, you will keep on making mistakes. Actually, matter of fact, let me take that back. Let me backtrack. People who make mistakes are people who learn the most. People who make mistakes are people who know what led to them making a mistake and therefore are able to propose a much better solution in the future. Don't be discouraged by the mistakes that you make. Don't be discouraged by the gaps that you see. That's 50% of the task already, understanding that there is a problem. The remaining task that's in front of you is understanding what you need to do to get back on track. Because that's the caveat to what I'm saying, right? If you let that discourage you, and rather than you making that resolve within yourself to improve and to pursue further, it's just reason for you to say, I give up. Then you're not gonna go anywhere. So for me, don't be discouraged. It's part of the process. I'm going to reassure you. I don't know if it's going to make you feel better or not, but you're going to keep making more and more and more and more mistakes as you move forward in your career. I still make mistakes. But the thing is, the $1,000,000 question is, what do you do after you make a mistake? Do you get discouraged? Do you just try the same thing over again and fail again? Or do you actually learn from it and improve the process, improve the system based on what you've learned from your mistakes? I hope that answers your question. And really, I do hope that it somehow reassures you. Relax and be kind to yourself. It's part of the process.
Very inspiring words, Mr. Gutierrez, and I'm sure that a lot of our students definitely need those sorts of words with finals week fast approaching. Hopefully it goes well for everyone on campus, of course. But we have to move on to our next question. Thank you again for the inspiring words. But Ken would like to ask, how did you juggle your academics, personal, social, and organizational life when you were still a student? Do you have any advice?
Well, number one, so there is this story that I heard sometime back when I was in college, and I've carried it with me closely up until today, where a professor had 3 buckets in front of him. There were big boulders, big stones. There were little stones, and there were sand, right? And there was this empty glass container in front of him. And he was saying, how can I maximize the amount of material that I will be able to put into this glass container, so that all of these things, because these boulders, small rocks, and sand represent all of the things that I need to do. And then what he did is he flipped it around, put in the big stones first, then the little stones seeped into the cracks of the big stones, and finally poured in the sand. I think that's a critical skill that everyone needs to learn. You need to identify what are the big rocks in your to-do list. You need to understand what are the small rocks in your to-do list, and you need to understand what's the sand. The big rocks are the things that absolutely need to get done and should always be first in priority. Anything small rock follows after that. And it fits in between those little cracks that fall in between those big stones. And finally, if you still have any space moving forward, then you fill it up with the sand, which is basically the useless stuff, the relaxing, I would say, the mindless scrolling through Reddit, the mindless scrolling through I don't know what kind of social media the kids are into these days. It takes discipline. It takes discipline. It takes a lot of prioritization. And I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect. I'm not going to say that 100% of the time you're going to be fitting in everything. But you make do with that limited amount of time that you have by making sure that you hit those big rocks first, then the little rocks, then finally, if you have space, the sand. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you for that really interesting answer, Mr. Mick Gutierrez. I also like the analogy that you used. Unfortunately, however, time is almost up for our question and answer portion, and our last question will be coming from Pamela. Pamela wants to ask, what is it like working with different kinds of people in your company? Do people's roles and educational background matter that much when working in that corporate setting or with your colleagues?
That's a really fantastic question. For me, it's a little bit of a yes and a no. I say no because I'll start first with a no. It doesn't matter that much for me, because at the end of the day, everything that you learn in college is just the tip of the iceberg as you move on. Remember when I was telling you about operations research and how I'm able to use that in how I work, right? That's a very small piece of the amount of work that I do on a daily basis. MOQ, for example, is a very small part of what I do. So from that perspective, really the best experience that you could get in the career, especially as you progress, as you mature in the corporate ladder or in the industry, you're going to realize that a lot of those things you're going to learn while on the job itself. But I'm also saying that yes, it somehow matters as well, because even those little pieces of tools that I keep mentioning during my talk are very tangible advantages. And in the industry, you try to leverage any advantage that you can get for yourself. Even no matter how small it is, if it's an advantage, you can use it. I think there was also a part in your question where you were asking how is it like to work with different kinds of people. Maybe I'd like to also circle back to one of the things that I was saying about soft skills. It's also one of the most critical things for me, I think, that you should develop. It's actually being able to be flexible enough to understand that not everyone you're going to be working with has the same wavelength as you. There are so many different people, so many different ways that the human mind is wired. There are so many different ways to approach a problem. And one of the most critical soft skills that you could develop for yourself is having that flexibility to work with different styles. Yeah. And also being able to introduce a human factor, also being able to, build a collaborative relationship with different kinds of people coming from different walks of life. Because again, you won't always have the right answer, but when there are 10 minds working on a problem and there are 10 different approaches to solving a problem, then those are much better chances of success at solving something rather than just you working all by yourself. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you to our participants as well for all of your questions. And of course, thank you so much for your knowledge and time, Mr. Mick Gutierrez. We highly appreciate it.
We cannot stress our appreciation enough, and with that said, we would like to present the certificate of appreciation for you flashed on the screen.
Given this day, 18th of May in the year of the Lord 2021 at De La Salle University, Taft Avenue, Manila, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Mr. Mick Gutierrez for sharing knowledge as a distinguished speaker in the success of aieCon 2021, building the industries of tomorrow. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Mike Gutierrez.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And with that, we have reached the end of our event. A great afternoon well spent, if you were to ask me, Miguel.
I have to agree with you, Josh. Time flies, that's for sure. And I would like to give a big thank you to all of our speakers who have greatly inspired us and informed us this afternoon at aieCon 2021.
It was truly such an inspiring afternoon for me. But now the long wait is over. We will now be announcing our raffle winners for today.
I personally can't wait to see who our lucky winners for today are. Now, without further ado, for the first question, there we go. We have the first raffle question. What is the term for the process of designing or arranging workplaces, products, and systems so that they fit the people who use them?
Our winners for this question are Michaela Hapitan, Sherwin Mesa, Ashley Atienza, Jenilyn Sevilla, Erin Gerlan, Princess Bati, Ariel Banton, Arvin Santos, Grash Conde, and Sofia Pascayo. The correct answer for this question once again is ergonomics, and congratulations to our winners for winning a 100% discount for Introduction to Franchising in the Philippines, an ebook from Franchise Manila. Our team will send you a message regarding how to avail of your prize, so please expect a message from us soon. Once again, our winners for the raffle question a while ago are Michaela Hapitan, Sherwin Mesa, Ashley Atienza, Jenilyn Sevilla, Irene Gerlan, Princess Bati, Ariel Banton, Arvin Santos, Grash Conde, and Sofia Pascasio.
Now, what a wonderful prize that our winners will be receiving. Congratulations once again to the winners, and thank you to Franchise Manila. Now, let's move on to the second raffle question. Now, the second question that we have is, what is your favorite topic or subject in industrial engineering? And of course, why?
Now, I'm really curious to see what our participants answered for this question.
Yeah, same here, Josh. There were a lot of interesting IE subjects mentioned in the comments section down a while ago. So I wonder which of the lucky chosen are.
So now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, let us now see who our winners are for this question.
And the winners for the second question are John Sarcia, Adi Regis, Matthew Ke, Jedrick Sulay, Aubrey Odivillas, Cristel Getolye, David Mangiat II, Cleo Elvena, Angela Oafalias, and Kenneth Abundo.
Let's now move on to the third and final question for today. What is one quality that an industrial engineer should possess?
Oh, a truly stimulating question, actually. I'm quite excited to see our winners' answers.
Indeed, Miguel. Now, for our final winners for aiecon's raffle for the Iceberg insulated bottles are Patricia Katindig, Jansen Friala, and Claire Labrador.
Well, congratulations. Real job well done. Glad you guys were lucky enough to get the prizes. And once again, our team will reach out to you soon on how to claim your raffle prize. So please expect a message very soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much to Iceberg Insulated for these awesome prizes. But wait, Miguel, I think our participants still have another chance to win.
Oh, that's right, Josh. Glad you remembered. To our participants, don't worry, because you still have a chance to win. We will now be announcing our lucky winners of the 500 Philippine peso cash prize.
That's right, Miguel. We still have our 500 peso cash prize raffle. Now, to reveal our winners, drumroll please. Congratulations to our 500 peso cash prize winners, Justin Punay, Kumir Pakunlungan, Joshua Villanueva, Justin Go, Kelsey Kua, Voltaire Servidad, Laika Fajrikulay, and Gian Pontiveros.
Oh, how very lucky. I see some participants commenting down below. Congratulations to the raffle winners. Now, take note that a representative from aieCon will contact you about the details and how to claim your awesome prizes.
Yeah, so for our winners,
in the second and last day of aieCon 2021, building the industries of tomorrow. Our hearts are full knowing that you guys have enjoyed and learned from our event. May you all be able to apply the insights and information that you gained today to your future endeavors in, of course, a meaningful way.
well said, Miguel. And as for our closing remarks, may we please call on the EMS Vice President for Marketing, Mr. Timothy Tan.
On behalf of the entire Industrial Management Engineering Society, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all of you for attending our virtual event. To our keynote and main speakers, Mr. Benji Yap, Mr. Vince Perez, Mr. Patrick Pasenko, Mr. Charlie Villaseñor, and Mr. Ramon Hoxon. Thank you so much for inspiring all of us through the knowledge you imparted and the experiences you've shared. To our breakout speakers, Ms. Karen Perez, Mr. Harold Lim, Ms. Randy Lantonio, and Mr. Mike Gutierrez. We are so grateful for the time and effort you've provided us. It was truly amazing. We are so proud to announce that this year we have more than 3,400 participants from 12 different countries worldwide. This would have not been possible without our sponsors, our media partners, and our partner organization. So thank you so much for trusting us and supporting our event. And lastly, to all
2021, Building the Industries of Tomorrow. Before we end, I would just like to remind everyone once again to please fill up the general attendance log sheet flashed on the screen and pinned in the comment section. If you haven't already, you may also fill up the sponsor promotion form to avail for some special goodies for aieCon 2021 sponsors.
And as mentioned a while ago, for our DLSU students, please fill up the 4th hour activity form pinned in the comment section below. This is to ensure that your attendance in this event will be recorded and given to your respective professors. Otherwise, your attendance will not be counted, and of course, no one wants that. This form will close by 8 p.m. Philippine Standard Time, so that is in a few hours. So be sure to fill it up before then. One last time, we are your hosts. I am Miguel Antonio Lindog.
And I'm Josh Aronce from DLSU's official radio station, Green Giant FM. And once again, we would like to wish all of you a great day, and we hope to see you all of again until the next aieCon. Stay safe, everyone.